I made a camera decision that I don't regret. I ended up getting the A7RIII. Why did I end up making the switch? Now, I had the A7RIII as a loaner for a couple of days and got to use it for stills and for video. And I have to say, I'm truly convinced why this camera was worth the upgrade for me. When I first grabbed the camera, I can initially tell you, I love the way the body felt. Now, it is a little bit heavier, but it feels really, really good in my hands. It's not a make it or break it situation, but there's something about this camera and the body that feels a little bit better. So I love the ergonomics of this A7RIII. Now, one of the things is that you'll notice right away that this camera is much snappier than the A7R II. In stills, you get 10 frames per second. With the A7R II, I always kind of felt like, you know what, if I get the shot, I get the shot, and that's how it was, and I was kind of okay with that. Coming from the A6000, which is a much smaller camera, and it does that, I really started getting used to it. So I'm really happy that they took that into account. It's a stills camera, and this really makes it a killer camera. For me, anyway. Focus seems a lot tighter. The LCD is much sharper. The viewfinder is much sharper as well, I noticed. Now, the one thing that really blew my mind was this camera was competing with my A7 II, and you know what? This camera did so much better than my A7R II. Now, I didn't get the A7R II for a low light. But you know what? It would have been nice to have a low light camera and have the A7S II and the A7R. It goes on and on and on. They made this camera a complete package. Really, really happy with the dynamic range of this camera, and I like the fact that there's no more pixel binning. At 120 frames per second, it looks really, really good. Now, I want to do more tests. If you compare the A7R II and the A7R III, as far as images go, they're going to be very similar. Now, I took my settings from my A7R II and I set them up here on this camera, and I got them to be pretty close. I mostly use the Cine 2 and the Cine 4. Sometimes I'm using log, also the addition of S-Log 3. That's a nice addition, although I don't use S-Log much, but when I shoot with a bigger camera like the FS7 Mark II, I like to match these two cameras up, and I think I'll be able to do a better job with this like I did with the A7S II. Now, as far as accessories go, the battery's much bigger and lasts about 2.5 hours if you shoot consistently in 4K or if you're shooting non-stop. Now, I used this today all day long and the battery still has juice, about 36%, which is pretty good. Now, I shot in different formats from 4K, slow motion, 1080, you name it, and threw in a whole bunch of stills in between. So I think that's pretty good. When I first decided to go with this camera, I was a little worried that I invested in so many batteries that I feel like those would go to waste. Now, I still own the A7S II. I'll be using the batteries for those. I have the A6000. I'll use the batteries for those as well. So no loss there. Having the ability to maybe use 1 or 2 batteries for the day makes me a happy camper for a travel camera. For a production that I don't want to set up a whole bunch of external power sources, I think this is wonderful, and I'm really happy for that change. You've got these additional ports now, so you had the multi-port, now you've got the ability to power your camera and also charge your camera, which is really amazing. The fact that you have now 2 card slots. Now, granted, one isn't a super fast one, and obviously it needs to cache the images when you're shooting in fast mode, but for video, it's not a huge deal. All my old cards work perfectly in here. I've tested them. It's not a problem, so I'm really happy. It's not like I invested in a completely new body, new camera, that I'd have changed all my accessories. So again, the cards work just fine. If you have the cards that you're using now, it still shoots in 4K. You might not have that fast buffer. So again, I'm really happy with that. The cards stay the same, but having the 2 slots is an amazing feature for me. I love the fact that I don't have to flip down the door for that. This opens up and it closes really easily. I hope that it stays well and lasts for a while. The A7R II lasted and was in perfect condition. You've got a new joystick. I do like the fact that they changed the record button. In my previous video, I talked about 3 ways to enhance your A7RIII, which was to add an easy button that went on the side here so you can easily find it. And it's funny because I'm so used to using it that I'm constantly pressing the side of the camera, and now this feels awkward to me, the record button, but that's something you have to get used to. As far as the LCD and the viewfinder, it's much sharper. You can see it immediately when you put it up against your eye. Now, to talk about some accessories, In my video I posted before, I talked about a great cage that I've been using for years. Now this cage has gone through about 4 to 5 bodies. It's the wooden camera cage. I highly recommend it. The build quality is amazing and it's worth every dollar, just because I've had cages before that stripped. So the only issue I found with the accessory with this wooden camera cage now is the lip in the back prevented the viewfinder from turning on. Only the LCD would come on. Now you can do it manually and you can turn it on and off depending on what you want. The problem is I didn't want to do that, so I took the lip off. So far so good. It's holding tight. I wonder if Wooden Camera's aware of it. Obviously they probably have a specific cage for this, but I love this cage because I used it for so many cameras, and I think it's the best bang for your buck for this type of cage. The other accessory I wanted to talk about for the A7R III that's changed is the small HD focus. Now when I bought this Sony bundle, it had the battery connector that fit the A7R II and the A7SII and the other camera lines that use that type of battery. With the bigger battery, that doesn't work. So either the small HD focus, the company itself is going to come out with a new extension to go into this new battery. I don't know, I'll check it out. I'll post something if something's up, I'll take a look. But this is something they're going to need to address. Otherwise, we don't have that piece, and that's one of the reasons why I bought it. Obviously, it came out before the A7R III did, but I hope they come up with an accessory that's going to work with this. That's about the only thing that I can say as far as accessories goes. It was like an easy switch to put everything back in here that I had before in my A7R II with no problem. I even set up all my settings exactly the same. The colors seem to match. Once again, I have to tell you, it's much better in low light. I would have to push it really high on the A7R II. I think this was a justifiable upgrade. My A7R II paid itself and then some. If I can conclude in a quick way, what this camera is for me is like having the A6000 or A6500, the A7S II, having all in one. That's a great camera, great stills camera, great video camera. Having all those 3 cameras in one, that's pretty much how it feels like. So if you're looking to upgrade, I fully recommend it. The other thing I want to talk about was the MetaBones adapter. This is the generation before the newest one now, and it works just fine. That's not been an issue. Autofocus works. Everything seems to work just like it did before. As far as buying accessories, I wouldn't say go out and buy, 5 batteries. I think 2 batteries for a day is enough. If you want to really be safe, get 3 batteries, but I think that'll do it. So, hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you do own the A7R II, it's really a great camera. And to be honest, if you don't need these features, stick with the camera. The image is exactly the same. If it's your only camera, I think it's an amazing camera. You should stick with it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please follow, like, and subscribe. And guys who have subscribed to the channel, thanks so much for watching. I know we're small numbers right now, but hopefully it'll get bigger. I'll try to make more consistent content. I'll try to do it more often. Again, I don't get paid to do this. I'm doing this on my own time and my own dime. That's it, guys. I hope you liked my previous videos. Please go check them out if you haven't already done so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.